Hey, Alison.
Hi, Delano.
You're going to tell us about how artists in the country have been keeping the situation in the public eye, and we're also joined by an artist who is doing just that, Iranian filmmaker Mina Keshavarz. Great to have you on here with... Hello to both of you. Go ahead.
Hello. Well, I can start off by saying that Mina was in Iran when these protests erupted last year. At the time, you were actually banned from leaving the country. Can you just talk about what your feelings were when you saw these protests break out and maybe how the country has changed in the past year?
Oh, well, last year I was in Iran when the protests started. I've been arrested before that as filmmaker, and then I was banned for leaving the country. But that time for me, it was a big shock when the protests started because I never thought that I can see these pictures and images in the streets of Iran, women without hijab and fire the scarf in the street. And but you could think about that because women movement in Iran has a very, very long history, and it wasn't something just happened one night. It was the result of all those resistance.
Yeah, and you're someone who's been documenting that history. Your documentary, The Art of Living in Danger, is being shown this weekend at an event in Paris at the European House of Photography, marking a year since Mahsa Amini's death. It's about domestic violence in Iran, and it's actually addressed to your grandmother who experienced domestic violence and took her own life when she was 35, before you were born. It came out in 2020, so as you said, this is a fight that Iranian women have been doing for a long time, and you've said that this is really the first documentary that talks about it.
Yeah. Actually, the first documentary that talks about the women movement after the revolution in Iran. It's my film, and I think that because it's not easy to make film about women movement in Iran, because already a lot of women rights activists being jailed or forced to leave the country, and many filmmakers afraid to do that. But when I heard about this campaign and this movement of women lawyers and women rights activists to fight against domestic violence, I was thinking it's the film that I want really to make, and I want to document all these moments for the future. Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at a clip from that documentary. This is The Art of Living in Danger.
حس میکنم این ترسی که توی من خیلی قدیمیه. عمرش از خود من بیشتره. همه جا با من هست. بعضی وقتا فکر میکنم این فقط ترس خودم نیست. انگار دارم ترس‌های یه عالم زن دیگر رو هم زندگی میکنم. به زن‌های دیگه که فکر میکنم ترسم رنگ عوض میکنه. کم کم با خشم ترکیب میشه.
That quote there, when I think about women, other women, the fears change, they join with anger. Those words are so resonant, Mina. Is there any way these protests, you think that they're finally happening now because so many Iranians have found a way to join that fear into anger?
Actually, the fear, in my film, I said that the fear is part of our daily life, but it doesn't mean that we are afraid, of course, but we continue the resistance, we continue to fight, we continue to change from inside Iran, and I think that the new generation, they are so brave. They grew up with the social media, so they don't hesitate or they don't afraid to ask for whatever they want. So it's the hopeful things, I think, in Iran, yeah.
And Mina, you've been targeted by the Iranian government for your work. Last year, you were arrested and detained for about a week. You were then barred from leaving the country for a year. Can you talk a bit more about what that experience was like?
Yeah, I think that for documentary filmmakers, like journalists, like many other artists in countries like Iran, you always have this fear that being arrested one day. And it happened for me, unfortunately. And then for 1 year, all the things that I was doing was stopped. And when this uprising happened, for me it was very tragic on the other hand, because I was in very bad situation, not allowed to work, and I wasn't able to document anything those days, but and because of that, I kept everything in my mind as image, and maybe one day, I make a documentary about that. Yeah.
And you are one of the many Iranian filmmakers the government has tried to silence. Arresting artists has long been a tactic of the regime. One of the most high-profile filmmakers, perhaps, is Jafar Panahi, the director of Taxi Tehran, and more recently, No Bears. He spent almost 7 months in prison last year for alleged propaganda against the system. He was freed after starting a hunger strike and was able to leave the country for the first time in 14 years. And then most recently, another filmmaker, Saeed Rustai, was sentenced in August for showing his film Layla's Brothers at the Cannes Film Festival. Now, he is forbidden from participating in the film industry for 5 years now, and some have said, Mina, that his sentence was perhaps an attempt even to distract from this upcoming anniversary.
Yeah. I think that, they... sometimes when there is a big protest coming, the regime wants to, make lots of news to put attention on other things, and people forget about the anniversary, for example, this year. But I'm sure that many people are still angry of those events that happened last year, and let's see what's going on. We never know.
I do want to flag up a couple other ways that artists are marking the anniversary of Iran's protest movement. Tomorrow there is a graphic novel coming out called Woman, Life, Freedom that was created by over a dozen artists, illustrators, and intellectuals under the direction of the illustrator and filmmaker Marjan Satrapi, who's best known, of course, for Persepolis. Now, it's being published in several countries, and it's going to be available for free online in Persian so that Iranians can access it. Satrapi says the goal is really to explain and paint a picture of what's happening in Iran, and it's also to send a message to Iranians that they're not alone, that they are supported by Western civil society. And then the photo festival Visa pour l'Image, which is here in the south of France, has a show of photos that were actually taken from social media documenting these protests. Mina, you've personally experienced how difficult it is to document what happens in Iran, and you've said that smartphones and social media have really been a major change. Yeah.
Actually, after 2009, for documentary filmmakers, for filmmakers in general, always it was so difficult to go outside in different protests to document something. It was totally banned, and I showed that in my film. But social medias, and thanks to citizen journalists to capture all these moments during these years,
And we're running out of time, but just finally, Mina, could you maybe talk about your hopes for the future of Iran in the coming months and years? Do you have hope that there will be regime change?
I don't know. You never know. Actually, my new project is about hope, but let's see what will happen.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Delano.
Thank you.
Mina, Alison, thank you very much for joining us on the program. More news coming up. Stay with us.